Our story begins 5,000 years ago, in an era remembered only as the Age of Despair. Humanity stood at the very edge of extinction, its final breaths all but stolen by the darkness that had swallowed the world. In that hopeless time, four great heroes rose, each a legend in their own right, to challenge the evil that sought to erase all life. They stood together against Erebos, the genesis of all malice. There was Luna, the elven archmage, known as the poet of the stars, Dweno, the dwarven master smith, revered as the divine blacksmith, Aaron, the beastman warrior, famed for his unmatched courage, and lastly, Lysinas, the wise dragon king, whose name echoed like thunder across ancient skies. But their tale would never be complete without the fifth who fought beside them, a human, our true main character, Kyle. At the climax of their battle, when the heroes were pushed to the brink of defeat, Lysinas lay dying, his once mighty form trembling as his heartbeat faded. Seeing no other path to victory, the Dragon King offered Kyle his most sacred treasure, his dragon heart. Kyle, stubborn to the end, refused at first, desperately trying to heal the fading monarch despite knowing deep down that it was already too late. As the two shared a silent understanding, their minds drifted back to their very first meeting, the moment they swore to save the world together. Calling him a stupid lizard through gritted teeth, Kyle finally stepped forward, refusing to let their resolve die with the dragon. Lysinas only chuckled, even at death's door. With tears hidden behind battle-hardened determination, Kyle accepted the heart. One by one, he thanked Luna, Dweno, and Aaron, for fighting beside him, for believing in him, for giving humanity a chance to rise again. The surge of power that followed was overwhelming, scorching, almost divine. Kyle knew his body might turn to ash before the battle ended, but he no longer cared. If burning himself away was the cost to defeat Erebos, then he would pay it willingly. With a roar that shook the very air, he shouted his name and challenged the primordial evil head-on. With that, our precap ends, and the world shifts to the present. In a quiet home far away from those ancient battlegrounds, a beautiful woman named Raina recites the very same tale to her young son. In the polished, gentle version of history she reads from, Lysinas' sacrifice becomes the turning point of the war, the heroes unite, and together they drive Erebos into oblivion. But in this retelling, the true savior, Kyle, is nowhere to be mentioned. His name erased. His deeds forgotten. His existence scrubbed clean from the memories of those who inherited the world he saved. Raina, unaware of the truth, continues reading with a warm smile, believing her son loves the story so much that he wants to hear it again. Her boy, Leo, listens with a strained expression. She mistakes his reactions for excitement, not realizing that every page she turns feels like another slap to the face. Because Leo isn't entertained, he's furious. After all, he is the reincarnation of the man who truly defeated Erebos 5,000 years ago. The man written out of the history he died to protect. The man the world has forgotten, even though he never forgot the world. And so, as Raina happily begins the story again, Leo sits there, fists clenched, silently screaming for her to stop reading that damned book. The scene shifts to the present day, revealing the grand stone towers and gilded banners of the Royal School of Delan, a place where prestige and arrogance walk hand in hand. Inside one of its classrooms, a professor stands before his students, robes swaying with every dramatic gesture. Clearing his throat, he proclaims that they now live in the Age of Heroes, a glorious era shaped by 5 millennia of change since the hero record first appeared in their world. With a sense of pride swelling in his voice, he announces that their institution, the Royal School of Delan, has been selected to host this year's looming entrance examination, the most revered gateway for aspiring heroes. Excitement fills his tone as he declares his belief that among the very students seated before him, there may be individuals destined to carve their names into the hero record itself. But such greatness, he warns, begins by paying attention in class. The last line is delivered with a pointed glare toward a certain back corner, the sacred territory of our protagonist, who, true to his backbencher roots, is fast asleep. The professor's patience thins. Calling out sharply, he asks whether Leo is so confident in his knowledge that he dares sleep through a lecture. If that is truly the case, then surely he must know the answer to a simple question: what ritual did one have to undergo to become a hero 5,000 years ago? Leo Plov, 15 years old, white-haired, red-eyed, and majestic even in his annoyance, slowly rises from his seat. He is the least bit interested in this class, or in the professor's theatrics for that matter. Drawing from his memories of the past, he answers blandly that all one had to do was make a name for himself. The people would naturally begin worshipping him. He speaks as if explaining something obvious. But little does he know, history has been altered. The truth he remembers is no longer the truth this world acknowledges. The professor sighs, visibly disappointed. Turning away from Leo, he asks if anyone else would like to answer. Immediately, because of course someone had to, a boy sitting right beside Leo raises his hand with a smug eagerness. Trying far too hard to show off, he declares that in ancient times, there was no direct way to receive the gods' acknowledgement, and thus the only method of selecting heroes was through sacred holy rituals. As an example, he mentions the ritual of blood, his tone practically dripping with self-importance. The boy's name is Llewellyn Tratton. I hate the boy already, such a show-off. The professor's face lights up like he's been waiting all day to hear this exact answer. He praises Llewellyn with unrestrained joy, calling him the greatest magic genius of their kingdom. He even expresses the lofty hopes he has for him in the upcoming Lumine examinations. Meanwhile, our MC, utterly unbothered by the praise being heaped onto Llewellyn, leans back with a sigh, sifting through his old memories. He recalls how simple it used to be to meet the gods back then. Holy rituals, my ass. According to this world's version of history, the hero record was said to be a miracle bestowed upon the lower world by the gods themselves, meant to celebrate the great heroes who stood against the Rebos. But Leo cannot help but wonder, if that is true, then why is he the only one treated as though he never existed? A sudden commotion ripples through the school corridor as students gather in a noisy cluster, shoving and stretching to peek through the tall arched windows. Whispers rise, excitement buzzing through the air. Beyond the glass, walking with undeniable presence and wrapped in a glowing aura, is Celia Zeringer of the prestigious Zeringer clan, escorted by elite guards who move like shadows at her side. Moments later, an announcement booms across the academy. All students are to gather in the auditorium for an unplanned assembly. The Royal School of Delan is being formally visited by none other than the Zeringer clan. Beside Leo, Llewellyn turns with a smugly curious look and asks whether he plans on going to the assembly to catch a glimpse of Celia, and perhaps get noticed by the clan. He doesn't forget to add that even if Leo went, the clan wouldn't care about him anyway. Leo, as nonchalant as ever, tells him he has no interest in any of that, unlike a certain someone. This only frustrates Llewellyn further. Trying desperately to maintain a cool facade, he retorts angrily that he has no interest either. He's merely going to check out Celia as a rival. Relax, kiddo, Celia doesn't care even if you exist. Later that day, we find Leo training alone, every movement sharp and controlled. As he wipes the sweat from his forehead, he quietly admires the physical form he's grown into. Part of it may be years of disciplined training, but he can't deny it. This body is far superior to the one he had in his previous life. He's lost in his thoughts, mid-swing, when suddenly, a blur. A flash. His mother launches an attack from behind. Startled, Leo reacts instantly, parrying with perfect timing. Shocked, he demands to know why she ambushed him like that. His mother simply replies that it's been a while since they sparred, and since he's preparing for the Lumine examination, she decided to give him one final test. This time, she intends to go all out. And she does. Each blow she throws is stronger than the last, her expression determined, even fierce. She becomes so strict, so relentless, that Leo actually asks whether she isn't going too far. But she's made up her mind. Even so, in the back of her thoughts lurks worry. What if she goes too hard and Leo fails to dodge or defend? She pushes the fear aside, but not without hesitation. She has no idea, of course, that the boy standing before her is the reincarnation of the hero who once defeated Erebos itself. Leo is not someone who can be taken down so easily. Eventually, he decides it's time to end the test. With clean precision, he disarms her, displaying the overwhelming difference in their abilities. His mother stares, stunned by the talent of the son she raised. Finally catching her breath, she asks him once more if he is still set on attending the Human Hero Academy, Llewellyn. Internally, Leo reflects that among the 4 great hero academies, those that guard the hero record, the human one is the most likely place to still hold remnants of his erased legacy. So, outwardly, he nods and says he's sure. His mother tells him that since the Zeringer clan is visiting Dylan, they'll be staying at their mansion. This surprises Leo. She continues, saying that although she dislikes the idea, she will request Zeringer, the vice-patriarch of the clan, to teach him the Zeringer aura technique. With that knowledge, she believes he'll become strong enough to enter Llewellyn next year. Leo, without hesitation, casually replies that he wants to enter the academy this year instead. The next morning, just outside the Plav family mansion, a luxurious carriage rolls to a stop. Before the door even opens, an irritated voice rises from within. Celia Zeringer, clearly furious, complains at full volume about why her uncle insisted on staying here of all places. According to her, Ziz could have easily rented an entire hotel for the clan, instead of coming to some small family. She grumbles that she wants to focus on the Llewellyn exam, so why drag her into something so unnecessary? Her uncle, Ziz Zeringer, remains calm as always. He reminds her that she'd heard about Leo, the boy who boldly claimed he had no interest in the Zeringer clan. Celia scoffs, saying that if Leo is just a knight who can't even use aura yet, then he's hardly worth the attention. Ziz disagrees. His opinion of the boy seems quite different. Once they enter the mansion, they're greeted by the Plav family, Reina Plav and Marquis Plav, the parents of Leo. Ziz introduces Celia and nudges her to greet them properly. With graceful courtesy, Celia thanks them for opening their home to the clan for the next week. Reina welcomes her warmly, silently noting that Celia resembles both her father and uncle in posture and pride. Celia, on the other hand, finds herself momentarily stunned. Reina's black hair and red eyes remind her strikingly of her own lineage. It's an uncanny reflection that catches her completely off guard. Later, the families gather around the dining table. Ziz begins recounting their earlier visit to the Royal School of Dylan, the sea of excited students, the chaos in the corridors, and how not a single one dared ignore their presence. Except, of course, Leo. Reina chuckles and teases that it must have wounded the mighty Zeringer pride just a little. But then, laughing again, she apologizes in case her son came across as disrespectful. She explains that Leo simply isn't interested in anything besides training and rarely pays attention to social status or fame. Ziz grows thoughtful and asks what sort of child Leo truly is. Reina answers without hesitation, her son possesses unbelievable talent. Their conversation reveals something else. Reina is actually Ziz's elder sister. That alone explains the casual familiarity between them. Ziz leans in, asking whether she genuinely believes Leo is worthy of inheriting the flames of Zeringer. Reina assures him that she's not recommending Leo because he's her son, she's recommending him because he truly is deserving. Hearing this, Ziz becomes genuinely intrigued. If his elder sister spoke so highly of the boy, he had every reason to investigate further. Still, he insists he will need to test Leo himself before making any decisions. Meanwhile, outside in the training grounds, we catch a glimpse of Celia and Leo sparring. Despite all her earlier arrogance, Celia finds herself slowly being pushed back, her defenses cracking under Leo's effortless rhythm. The upper hand is unmistakably his. A result Celia definitely didn't see coming. The scene opens with a precap, what truly happened. Leo sits alone in the mansion's hall, quietly meditating, when suddenly the wristband around his arm begins to glow. At long last, he has completed the vessel, his body, making it capable of holding everything he has been building toward. The reason he hadn't learned aura yet was simple. The moment aura entered his body, it would automatically specialize to match that aura, locking him into its nature and robbing him of the chance to accumulate pure mana and soul energy. In his past life, he had regretted never fully mastering his companion's powers and essences, Had he done so, so many of the catastrophes that followed might have been avoided. And so, in this life, he vowed to achieve perfect control. First step, controlling aura. His thoughts are abruptly interrupted when Celia barges into the hall. Leo opens his eyes, staring at her with the same expressionless face he always wears. Celia proudly compliments him on knowing the basics and offers to guide him in swordsmanship, her true motive being to score a few brownie points with her aunt. After a few exchanges, Leo finally realizes who she is. A few aura points gained for our boy. Celia lifts her chin and announces her name with dignity, calling herself Celia Zeringer, the Sword Princess, as the world likes to call her. Leo, being the king of truth bombs, politely thanks her for the offer but says he isn't interested in receiving instruction from someone clearly less skilled than himself. Celia freezes, then asks with irritation whether he actually believes he's stronger than her. Leo responds calmly that if it were a fight to the death, she might have the upper hand since he can't use aura. But in a pure swordsmanship duel? She's not on his level. Celia, annoyed and visibly frustrated, immediately challenges him to a spar with nothing but their skills. In her mind, she laughs. This arrogant boy must think that once he learns aura, he'll surpass her. So she'll show him the harsh reality. She proposes a wager. If she wins, Leo will be her servant during their week-long stay. Leo asks what happens if he wins. Confident she'll never lose, she smirks wickedly and agrees to the same terms. She'll become his servant. They begin at once. Their swords clash sharply. After the first strike, Celia takes a defensive stance, silently acknowledging his speed. Still, she trusts her own skill. They charge again. This time Leo reveals a hint of his true strength, enough to shake her confidence. The next clash booms across the arena. Celia's eyes widen as Leo closes in. Panic spreads across her face. She knows she cannot block it. Unwillingly, she activates her aura armor, violating the very rules they agreed on. Leo immediately points it out, asking if the duel wasn't supposed to be pure swordsmanship. Flustered, Celia claims it was just a reflex. Leo, being the badass he is, replies that it doesn't matter, he'll win anyway. Shocked, Celia insists there's a massive difference between fighters with aura and those without. Leo simply smiles and tells her to test it on him. He removes his wristbands. Celia instantly recognizes them, magic weight bracelets. They suppress strength and magic for training. And yet, even with them on, he still overpowered her. Tension sharpens her face as Leo charges again. This is the first time she's seen someone so brutish. Crazy bastard indeed. The scene shifts to Reina and Ziz strolling through the hallway. Leo walks past. Reina tells him to greet Ziz. Leo politely introduces himself. Ziz introduces himself as his uncle, and they shake hands. Reina then casually asks if he has already met Celia. Leo stays silent, and the scene cuts to Celia, unconscious, being carried on a stretcher as escorts rush to treat her injuries. Ziz demands to know what happened. The escorts explain everything. Ziz is stunned. Leo defeated Celia, even without aura? That alone impresses him deeply. Leo shrugs and says she simply underestimated him. Ziz then asks what terms they had wagered. Leo tells him clearly, the loser becomes the winner's servant. Ziz immediately finds himself in a dilemma. A person's word must be honored, yet Celia is a direct member of the Zeringer house. Leo could not be allowed to order her to do maid work. He politely asks Leo to rescind the agreement. In exchange, he offers to reward him with something else. Our MC declines without hesitation. It was a wager between him and Celia. As long as she bears the Zeringer name, she must take responsibility. Ziz UPS the offer. He will teach Leo the Zeringer aura breathing method. Leo rejects this as well, stating that an aura method given only to save a niece from humiliation has no worth in being learned. Ziz's tone drops cold, sharp enough to frighten most. He tells Leo he has just declared two things, that he will make a direct Zeringer line member into his servant, and that the Zeringer aura method is worthless. Leo answers calmly with a simple yes. Ziz thinks the boy's words impudent, but Leo clarifies politely that he had no intention of insulting the clan. Had Ziz offered the aura method purely as a reward for defeating Celia, he would have accepted it gladly. But by calling it a gift meant to erase Celia's loss, Ziz implied that Celia only lost because she let her guard down. Leo knows with absolute certainty that even if Celia had fought in earnest, he still would have won. Reina beams with pride, seeing her son handle the situation so gracefully. Even Ziz is impressed. He never imagined a boy would reject such an offer so firmly and logically. He even laments that no such child exists within the Zeringer family. Finally, he orders the escorts to send Celia to the maids' quarters. The escorts freeze in shock. This turn of events is beyond anything they expected. Ziz then assures Leo that in unofficial settings, he may comfortably address him as Uncle. Satisfied, Leo takes his leave. Once Leo is gone, Ziz tells Reina that instead of teaching him the Zeringer breathing method, he will speak to their eldest brother and requests permission for Leo to learn the phoenix breath. Reina is stunned by this declaration. Then comes the final scene. Celia appears in a cute maid uniform, bright red with embarrassment. She bows deeply and introduces herself as Celia, the maid who will be serving Leo for the next week. In a small, shy voice, she calls him Young Master Leo. Leo looks at Celia in her maid uniform and in the gentlest voice he can manage, tells her the outfit suits her surprisingly well. Her cheeks redden even more. He adds that no one could have imagined her usual noble, fancy style would fit such plain-made clothes. Celia flares up, shy and irritated all at once, snapping that she knows she's beautiful, but he doesn't have to say it like that. Leo awkwardly apologizes, realizing he may have sounded too blunt. He remembers a certain friend who used to praise beauty too much, maybe that habit rubbed off on him. That friend was none other than the dwarven hero Dueno, who always believed that the beauty of the eternal was unparalleled. He used to say that once peace returned to their world, he would spend the rest of his life spreading beauty to everyone. Celia's eyes widen. She admits Leo's friend sounded pretty cool if he knew how to appreciate true beauty. Leo sighs internally and mutters that Dueno's problem was that he was too honest. For example, although she was aggressive, Lucina's was more beautiful than anyone. Dueno even wanted Luna and Lucina's to be his nude models. A real pervert indeed. They used to beat the crap out of him. Back in the present, Celia sees Leo reading a book and asks whether it's a training manual. Leo tells her it's a storybook, Great Hero of the Beginning, and that he used to read it a lot when he was young. Celia scowls, remembering that when she was young, she only got to study training manuals. There was no time for storybooks. The memory annoys her. Looking at Leo's collection, she notes that he seems to really like Great Hero of the Beginning, and even an official researcher wouldn't know as much as he does. Leo shrugs and says he simply collected the books over time. She then notices several books revolving around Kyle. Leo explains that among the hero's achievements, there are countless deeds that can't be clearly attributed to any one of them. So, he believes those belong to Kyle. Well, he knows that for a fact. But history has erased every trace of it. Celia snorts and says Kyle was probably a scammer who tried to claim the real hero's achievements. Leo freezes. Kyle? He repeats, almost to reconfirm. Celia nods and says that's what most people think, and she thinks the same. Leo sighs deeply at hearing what the world now believes of him. To avoid the bitterness rising in his chest, he asks whether they should eat breakfast and begin training. Celia, brightening up, calls him young master, and asks eagerly if she can join his training. Behind that innocent smile was a wicked grin. She wanted to uncover the secret behind his strength. Leo warns her she may not be able to keep up, which annoys her immediately. Being underestimated hits her pride like a hammer. And so, their training begins. We all know how this goes. She gets tossed around like a ragdoll, and can't keep up with Leo at all. Leo calmly explains that when stamina hits its limit, reaction speed drops, movements slow, and openings appear, like the way she left her back exposed a moment ago. Panting and exhausted, Celia asks if abusing the body like this is even helpful. For a moment, Leo forgets he's technically a kid now and mutters that young people these days are too weak. He recalls that compared to the past, aura techniques have improved drastically. That's probably why people no longer train their bodies seriously. Aura enhances the body, and a strong body, in turn, elevates the aura. Celia, meanwhile, has never been called weak in her life. Frustrated, she takes her stance again, determined to show this arrogant white-haired moron her true strength. Done with being underestimated, she charges at him with full might. Their swords clash, but she is simply out of her league. She is thrown back even farther this time. Frustrated, she demands to know why she can't win after so many tries. Leo understands her problem and hands her his magic weight bracelet, telling her it will help build strength. Little does he know she's nowhere near capable of handling it. The moment she wears it, her arm slams straight into the floor from the sheer weight. A wicked smile spreads across Leo's face. He tells her to wear it every day from now on during training. Their sessions continue over the next few days, and one afternoon, Ziz arrives to watch them train. He thinks silently that this is good for her. Before entering Lemine, her pride needs to crumble at least once. As he watches, he calls out to Leo. Leo greets him politely. Ziz tells him that he plans to request the Patriarch to allow Leo to inherit the Phoenix Breath. Leo is stunned by the offer. He knows full well that the Phoenix Breath is the Zeringer family's original aura technique, something only direct, recognized lineage members are allowed to inherit. Celia quickly tells him that her father would never approve it easily. Ziz agrees, which is why he tells Leo his condition. Leo must pass the Lemine entrance examination. Celia nearly jumps. She asks if Lemine's exam is basically an actual battle. It would be too dangerous for someone who can't even use aura. Leo replies that he has never experienced a real fight, adding a cheeky, in this life, that is, under his breath. His memories flash, worlds collapsing, gods dying, battles so terrifying the current generation could not even comprehend them. Those were his real fights. Ziz asks what Leo thinks of the condition. Leo calmly answers that if his father and mother allow it, he has no objection. Ziz smiles softly. He already expected Leo planned to take the exam this year. The spar between Leo and Celia continues until, finally, a week passes. The day of the Lemine entrance examination arrives. The entire venue buzzes with excitement upon seeing Celia Zeringer participating this year. But no one knows the white-haired boy standing next to her. Celia smirks and asks if he's nervous, accidentally calling him, young master, again. Leo replies dryly, not at all, and reminds her that the bet period ended, so she can drop the title. She blushes a little at the mistake. Before they can continue, someone calls Celia's name. The two turn around. Of course, it's the annoying guy from class, Llewellyn Tratton. He stops dead seeing Leo and immediately asks why he's even here when he can't use aura. But his tone flips entirely when he turns to Celia, greeting her with over-the-top politeness. They both ignore him completely as he radiates side-character NPC energy. He introduces himself for the 100th time, bragging about being Deland's greatest magic genius. Celia crushes his hopes instantly by saying she doesn't remember him at all. She grabs Leo's hand and drags him away to escape the creep. As they turn to leave, another voice calls out to Celia. She stops and looks back. Standing there are two siblings, Abad Llewellyn and Chelsea Llewellyn. Long time no see, they say with warm smiles. As the two siblings approached, Leo leaned closer to Celia and asked who they were and whether she knew them. Celia's expression instantly soured. She told him they were the Llewellyn siblings, descendants of a famed hero lineage from the Lordran Empire. Her irritation spiked so sharply her eyes practically glowed red. She hissed to Leo that if those two would be walking the same path as them, then they absolutely couldn't afford to lose. The Zeringer clan could never fall behind the Llewellyns. Our innocent protagonist blinked and replied calmly, but I'm from the Plav family. The siblings reached them and offered polite greetings. Celia returned the gesture. Their eyes shifted to Leo, curious about the boy beside her. Celia introduced him proudly as Leo of House Plav, a noble of Delad. The siblings exchanged a quick glance, clearly thinking he was some small fry from some small house. Before leaving, Abad smirked and announced to Celia that he would be taking the top spot this year. With a nod to Chelsea, the two walked away. Celia clicked her tongue, calling them arrogant jerks, and swore she would crush them thoroughly. Before long, all the applicants gathered inside the hall where a man stepped onto the stage, Zeringer, a professor from Lamine Academy. His reputation preceded him, students whispered excitedly. Even Celia's eyes widened in surprise. He was, after all, known as the sorcerer of Man. Leo, meanwhile, had absolutely no idea who he was. Celia almost choked on air when Leo admitted he didn't know him. She practically exploded, telling him Albi was a hero listed in the hero record. Leo simply thought, one of the so-called heroes of this era. Yet his eyes narrowed slightly. Something about the mana swirling within the professor's left eye felt unusual. Albi began explaining the trials, one-on-one combat and monster subjugation, each student taking turns. But in the middle of speaking, he suddenly burned the papers in his hand, declaring that he found that system too tedious. The students stared, bewildered, wondering what on earth snapped in their professor. Albi pulled a book from his coat pocket, the hero record. Holding it high, he chanted, "Open, hero record, Albi's world." The book glowed. A magic circle formed beneath the students. Albi's hands shimmered as he cast another spell. With a booming voice, he declared, "I hate inefficiency. So we're doing everything at once." The students froze, confused and terrified. Leo recalled what his school had once taught him. The hero record wasn't just a historical chronicle. Its real value was its ability to manifest the hero's world, the lived experiences of past heroes. And by conquering such worlds, one could inherit their power. He immediately understood. A hero training system. The students' surroundings warped, and in a flash, they were teleported into a forest. A disembodied voice echoed. "This place is the wild forest. Your goal is simple: survive. Work together, fight each other, do whatever it takes. To forfeit, break the orb." As Leo inhaled the scent of the wind, he recognized the terrain. It once had been an elven forest before the witch queen Salatna polluted it with her corruption. While Leo remained calm, the students around him trembled. Some considered forfeiting immediately. Others, overconfident idiots, claimed it must be just an illusion. Leo knew better. Though the world manifested from memory, the danger within was real. These hazards could kill. Just as he thought that, an arrow sliced past his face. His reflexes kicked in instantly. It was Chelsea, glaring from the shadows. She asked mockingly if they had met before, implying he was too insignificant to remember. She declared she'd be delighted to eliminate someone from House Zeringer. Leo corrected her, again, that he was from House Plav, not Zeringer. Chelsea shrugged, saying it didn't matter since she saw him with Celia earlier. A green glow flared from her hand. She summoned a wind sickle, materializing it out of thin air. Leo's eyes narrowed. That spell didn't exist in the past. But the fundamentals felt the same. Chelsea chuckled, amused by how composed he looked even as she prepared to kill him. She lifted her sickle, spinning it above her head until the air itself howled. Then she hurled it at him. Leo didn't even flinch. With a single fluid motion, he deflected the sickle with his sword. It split in half and crashed into the dirt. Chelsea's eyes widened. He blocked it? But she sensed no aura from him. Was it some hidden attribute aura? She couldn't tell. She did not, for a moment, consider he had done it with pure brute force. Leo calmly told her the attack was too simple. Then, because he was nothing if not logical, he offered that they join forces. After all, the survivor earns the most points, and as a sorceress she needed to pass at least one test. Chelsea scoffed, rejecting him instantly. She wasn't just a sorceress, she was a battle mage. Charging a second attack, fiercer than the first, she snarled, asking whether he was trying to lecture her about magic. A descendant of the Llewellyn family. A prideful prodigy. She would crush him. She launched the spell, but Leo vanished from sight. Not a trace of mana. Not a whisper of movement. Nothing. Before she could breathe, he appeared before her, fist drawn back, aimed straight at her face. Chelsea's heart dropped. She froze. Tears welled. But Leo stopped his fist a hair's breadth from her cheek. She collapsed to her knees in shock, coughing and trembling. Leo politely asked again if she wanted to join forces. But before he could finish, she fainted. Elsewhere, in a hall removed from the forest, examiners watched everything unfold through a giant magic screen. They gasped, exhilarated by the chaos and unexpected developments. Back in the wild forest, Leo had tied the unconscious Chelsea to a pole, seated comfortably nearby with a fire blazing in front of her. A slow, wicked smile curled on his lips, one that suggested he was planning something devious. Night fell over the wild forest, and Chelsea slowly regained consciousness. As her vision cleared, she saw a fire crackling inches from her feet, and Leo staring at her with a calm, unsettlingly gentle expression. She screamed internally. Out of all the things she expected, waking up tied to a pole with a psychopath smiling at her was not on the list. Leo asked quietly whether she was willing to cooperate now. She refused instantly. She snarled that she needed no one but her brother. She attempted to summon her wind sickle, but nothing happened. Her wrists were bound by a spell that blocked her magic entirely. She hissed that she could break out if he gave her a moment. Leo simply replied, in the politest tone imaginable, that he wouldn't let her focus on that. And then he loosened the rope. Chelsea slipped forward, straight toward the flames. Her clothes began catching fire, the heat scorching her ankles. Panic overwhelmed her. "Fine. I'll cooperate," she shrieked. Leo asked her to swear on the Llewellyn name. She swore without hesitation. Life over pride any time. Leo chuckled softly. Manipulating kids was easier than he remembered. At this point, I too am questioning whether he's a hero or a villain. He untied her properly, catching her with one arm before she fell. In a gentle, almost noble tone, he greeted her again. "Welcome back, Mage of Llewellyn." Chelsea froze, breath caught in her throat. She didn't know whether to fear him, or swoon. She probably started falling for this devious menace right there. Meanwhile, the examiners continued watching the trial unfold on the giant screen. Albeit Zeringer groaned in disappointment. None of the examinees were impressive so far. He muttered about their foolishness in wasting time fighting each other. Only Celia and Abad stood out, fighting together to defeat stronger monsters. He praised them as the bright future of the Republic. Then the scene shifted. Leo and Chelsea appeared on the feed, forming a party. Albeit initially dismissed the fire stunt as childish, but Chelsea Llewellyn teaming up with a random Plav boy. That alone earned Leo a passing grade. No, he wasn't as graceful or radiant as the Zeringer girl or the Llewellyn boy, but he was a dark horse. A dangerous, fascinating one. The broadcast showed Leo and Chelsea fighting orcs and monsters in sync, moving almost instinctively together. Chelsea admitted that traveling with a knight made things surprisingly comfortable. But she still couldn't understand the kind of aura he used. She sensed no mana. Leo told her plainly that he didn't know how to use aura at all. Chelsea nearly choked. How was he doing all this without aura? Leo said foundations were important. Then asked her what she believed the foundation of wind magic was. Chelsea demonstrated loudly, blasting apart monsters with a massive windbreaker spell. She proudly declared that anyone speaking of wind magic in front of a Llewellyn was a fool. Leo praised her strength, but then pointed out that the way she used it was completely wrong. Chelsea's temper flared. She prepared to yell at him for looking down on her, but Leo suddenly pointed at the ground beneath them. Picking up a handful of dirt, he said he had seen things that left victims looking exactly like that before. Chelsea stared at the dried, shriveled soil, then at the cracked corpses nearby. Leo realized something, and his eyes glowed. Suddenly, an attack flew toward them. Leo grabbed Chelsea by the waist and dodged smoothly. A group of students appeared, planning to take her out. They dismissed Leo entirely. Their first attack had failed, so they rushed them all at once. Leo's fist cracked into the first attacker's jaw, sending him flying. The others froze at the display of raw power. Leo turned to Chelsea and asked her to watch his back, even though he clearly didn't need the help. Chelsea's entire face went red. The man could have asked her to hold a rock and she would have still swooned. They took their stance together. Moments later, the leader of the group was sprinting through the woods like his life depended on it, which it did. He ran past Celia and Abad, too embarrassed to even speak. The two followed the trail back to its source. When they arrived, they froze. Leo and Chelsea stood confidently amidst a field of defeated monsters and unconscious students. The siblings stared in disbelief. Chelsea's eyes gleamed when she saw Abad and she ran into his arms, hugging him tightly. He was relieved she was safe. Celia, however, was more concerned with something else entirely. "Why are the two of you together?" Leo explained that he suggested Chelsea cooperate with him. Celia nearly fainted. That stubborn Llewellyn girl agreeing? Impossible. Leo gave her a wicked, devilish smile and said, "I convinced her." Celia looked horrified, knowing exactly what kind of tricks he must have used. Leo then helped revive the fallen students. Chelsea asked why he was helping the very people who attacked them. Leo replied that there was no point fighting anymore, they needed to beat the world together. That confused everyone. Leo explained the anomaly. The corpses in the forest had their moisture drained, and no new monsters were appearing nearby. They were too scared of something bigger. A high-tier monster had appeared. The students finally understood. This was Albi's first recorded feat, defeating a high-tier monster. Just as they pieced it together, an ominous pressure fell over the entire forest. Something massive revealed its presence. Meanwhile, the earlier escapee, the NPC who ran off to sabotage Leo, was wandering deeper into the woods. Alone, trembling, he suddenly froze. Something loomed before him, so terrifying he nearly soiled himself. The creature hypnotized him effortlessly. And then we finally see it. A massive, grotesque, oversized spider monster, its many eyes glowing as it seized control of his body.